I think that the Scrum Guide, we're starting to use it almost like a biblical reference. There's a zealotry around it where if it's in the guide, we're doing it. If it's not in the guide, we're not. And much of the conversation in the public has to do with whether or not something is, okayed or blessed by the Scrum Guide itself. And what does the Scrum Guide say? That can be problematic when we try to scale, because Scrum itself is ideally designed for teams that are generally smaller and self-contained and with a certain kind of product or project scope. The minute we start to wander outside those lines, we get into a bit of trouble. So do you find yourself doing, for example, delaying risky or difficult decisions so that the bigger part of the organization can have a think and get approvals and everyone chips in? Are you delaying software or product releases to 6 months, maybe 18 months? Hey, what about every 3 years? Just because of the sheer complexity of your scale? And likewise, do we find ourselves spending more time in status meetings trying to find ways to convert reds into greens by redefining what the word red means, or what the word agile means, or what the word product means? If we're doing those kinds of things, you're suffering from trying to fit what's in the Scrum Guide and Scrum principles to something of a much greater scale. And if you're doing those things, even though we feel like we're doing right by looking to the Scrum Guide for answers, in a way, we're fooling ourselves, we're hurting our teams, we're definitely hurting our customers, and more importantly, we're hurting the people who finance the work that we're doing. So it's time for us to think about what happens if it doesn't fit the definitions that are in the Scrum Guide. What happens if we're operating at a bigger scale or in complex environments or we're outside of tech? And I think it's the answers that the Scrum Guide can't provide that are the really interesting sweet spots.